Especially excited because I'm also going live to YouTube. So I know that the vast majority of people that follow Northern Vibe, thank you all so much from the bottom of my heart, do so on Facebook. I normally get about 1,000 or so views per episode, but we're now going live on YouTube. So make sure if you have followed on Facebook, please, I beg you, get across to YouTube as well. Subscribe, like, and get the notifications going. So we're really going to start moving on to that too, and other platforms in the very near future. But on to the interview. This one is a dead set, fair dinkum, great one. I really, really enjoyed this. I've called this one Champion Among Us. Now, Jo Butland is perfectly qualified to give anyone or anything the boot. She played Australian women's national soccer for the Matildas. She was 3 times All-Australian AFL team, including captain. She represented Australia for International Rules Football. That's a mix between Aussie Rules and Gaelic Football that facilitates the game being played between Australia and the Emerald Isle. She coached Queensland, has 2 medals named after her. She's a fair dinkum, dead set legend. We all think that we can just easily recognise these people, but Jo lives among us here in Cairns. She's teaching at Peninsula College and just one of us. So a really quick rundown about her career highlights, her soccer career. She played she played for the senior clubs QAS Sting and Canberra Eclipse. She played for the Australian women's national team, the Matildas, as the goalkeeper, from 1997 to 2001, inclusive with 4 caps. 2 Matilda games went to penalty shootouts and her saves won the games. I have footage, so we're going to play that. She moved to AFL. She played ruck and forward, ended up playing more than 200 games. The AFL Cairns League best and fairest 4 times in 5 years, from 2003 to 2008. 10 times AFL Cairns Premiership winning player, notching up 3 best on-ground performances in a grand final. She represented Queensland and was captain, as I said, 3 times All-Australian for AFL and named All-Australian captain in 2007. I'm not done. She played for Australia in the International Rules Cup. As I said, that's a bit of a mix between Gaelic and AFL. Still not finished. She's a coach, former coach of North Cairns club team and North Queensland under-16 reps. Cairns Coach of the Year from 2011 to 2014 inclusive, for complete clarity. That was every single one of those years. She's a committee member of the Peninsula Girls Football Club. She has 2 medals named after her. One of them is the Jo Butland Medal for Cairns Women's Best and Fairest title. She's currently the Assistant Regional Sports Officer at Peninsula School Sport. She's a fair dinkum, no holds barred legend. And the funny thing is, listeners, I had to dead set twist her arm to get her to come on. She was like, I really haven't done anything special or interesting. And yeah, I'm thinking, well, maybe except for you reached national and international excellence in 3 separate sports, you become an inspiration, a coach and a mentor to literally hundreds of people. I mean, what story is there to tell? So she's among us. This is her interview. First, I'll play a couple of minutes of her making the penalty goal saves to win the Matildas match. Thank you so much for joining in. Please like, please share, please comment. She's I've told her that she's going to have to come on and check. So I think she's at a sports meeting right now, but she's definitely going to be coming on. So comment away.
Vai lá, consegues tirar, não está tarde.
Yes. Right there. And she deserves to be happy about that. I mean, what a save, dead set. All right, right into the chat now. G'day, Janelle. G'day to everyone. All the others are on there. And yeah, John O'Simons, Ray Robbo. Fantastic to see you guys all on there and comment away. It's so good to have you all here. It's genuinely hard to know where to begin with you. But you were interviewed in the AFL magazine Football. I mean, they must put a lot of thought into that name. In 2009 and asked what your aspiration was. Now, back then, you said to continue to play at the highest level and give back to the younger generation. Well, mission accomplished, if I can make the observation. Very few people achieve self-defined goals, let alone self-defined goals that involve being the best in the country at something. And I know you don't like talking about your own achievements, despite the fact that you've played sport at a national and international level for 3 different codes and coached and got a medal named after you. But I know that you're actually happy to chat about young women who you've mentored. So we'll start off with that. And I know there are many.
Yep.
To make it a little bit easier for you, can you discuss that?
Yeah, I guess probably mostly in this AFL space that I'm maybe more known for around Cairns now than my other sort of sporting feats. But I started playing AFL back in 2003 and started coaching a couple of years after that, and really being a school teacher, just really enjoyed mentoring and helping, I guess, provide some pathway and some perspective to some of the kids. So Alicia King is one that comes to mind. She was she won the 12-year-old boys AFL Cairns best and fairest, and then come into youth girls and then played state footy and then eventually got picked up by North Melbourne and played I don't know how many games for North Melbourne before she had some I think she tore her ACL twice, but just to see her resilience, and to know that you've had a part in that is probably a greater achievement than actually playing.
Yeah, it's funny. This is a consistent theme I get from talking to people who really have, again, achieved at amazingly high levels. And I ask them, what's made you feel the best? And it's always around, mentoring, discovering and nurturing talent. It's always about that. And the thing I find really reassuring about this is it's a double-edged sword, actually, because I used to be in the police and, talking to some of the kind of like people that are down and out basically on the bottom rungs of society, but they complain a lot about a lack of opportunity. And I'm not saying that there isn't a degree of truth to that, but there's opportunity out there. And there are people that are just looking for someone, and in all different metrics, like not just sport, like so in business or in, I know a concreter who is chasing people. He's actually he's an Indigenous guy who owns a concreting business, and he's chasing people to mentor to become concreters. It's not the most glorious sounding thing in the world, but he makes a really good quid. He runs a great ship, and he's brought all these people up who are kind of like, because you don't need to read or write to be a concreter. Okay, like you could have failed everything at school. If you can swing a shovel, and then you can look at something and then you take a bit of care and you go, you know what, I'm going to make this bit of concrete black. You do it. And it's the same thing with you. Like that's what you're doing. But can you tell me about some of the other players that you've coached? Like I know that you've coached some people who were selected in the inaugural female intake into the Gold Coast Suns Academy. Would you mind talking about that?
Yeah, so I've had there was Katara Wapfara. She young Indigenous girl had in one of the Indigenous programs that I was lucky enough to coach, and my role in that was actually mentoring Indigenous coaches as well, Indigenous female coaches. And, you know, she was one of the first signed to the Gold Coast Suns and in their inaugural year, you know, and just to see her sort of talent, I guess, from schoolgirls, and then nurturing her through that Indigenous pathway to then state footy and then onto the Suns. You know, again, another achievement. She's sort of veered off into other pathways now. She got some injuries and probably didn't quite know how to deal with it. But, you know, I guess she's probably, I feel that she's now in the Brisbane Broncos system in terms of, you know, education and mentoring, sort of with Deadly Choices and that. And so you have to sort of, I feel that you get a little bit of, you know, you get a bit of a kick from that, because you don't have to just go on and be elite sports people. I guess my main message to the kids and young adults that I sort of help mentor is be, you know, it doesn't take anything to be kind and to be a good person. And, you know, I guess that's first and foremost in everything that I do. First and foremost, you know, it's not hard to be kind. It's not hard to be a good person, and that will take you far, you know, and your sporting talent and that sort of almost comes second. And so didn't quite make it this, you know, in the sporting arena after she got signed, but has forged a pathway, you know, in I guess mentoring and that sort of stuff. So yeah, pretty happy with that one.
And again, see, that's you've nailed that perfectly. It doesn't have to be, okay, you're on this path, and it doesn't matter if you veer off into the path. The thing is, you're going to pick up these characteristics, these personality traits that are really going to help you in anything else. Like I've heard it said, and again, it's from the many people that I've spoken to, that discipline is one of, if perhaps not the central personal characteristic that enables everything else. Like if you have self-discipline, it means you can be, because actually, as much as you say, it's actually not, it's not hard to be nice. That's the only thing I'd respectfully disagree with. Like it's kind of, there are some people's heads I'd just like tear off. So the whole showing restraint thing, well, that takes self-discipline. Turning up training takes discipline. Learning how to kick good. But again, you can take that, okay, you might be able to take the kicking the ball skill, but you can take the characteristic of self-discipline and apply it in any other field, and that will make you successful. It's like, yeah, it's just so, it's so cool for that. Would you mind talking about Goodman and Brianna as well?
Oh yeah. So Selena was, I reckon, a 20-year-old. So had never played footy before. Got brought along to North Cairns Tigers, was coaching, raw, could run, but had that, like I think you were just sort of saying, just wanted to turn up. She wanted to learn, wanted to get better, and had traits that you just couldn't, you just can't coach in that discipline and that desire to be better. And so to see her, you know, go through and work on her skills and be dedicated in that space, and I guess, and then get signed. I think she played some state level footy because she was that little bit older. Those youth girls, she missed that youth girls space, and got signed. Finished her teaching degree up here. Moved to Brizzy, or moved to the Gold Coast. Played down there. Got signed by the Lions, and you know, managed to play in, I think, every game for the Lions in the first season. But she was, again, another one that got delisted at the end of the first season. Had 2 years away from footy, found her passion for footy again, and then came back and got re-signed by the Lions in season 4, I think it was, or season 5, one of the two. She might have had 2 or 3 seasons off, and then had another crack, but was content in her achievements, and found went full circle, I guess, in being. She might have had 2 or 3 seasons delisted off, and then after playing every game, and went away and found herself, and again, being a teacher, she got involved in coaching, and I guess found the love of the sport again through that, and just mentoring young players. And now her passion is coaching. So that's another success story, because I think she'll make a good coach at some stage, because she just has that desire, I guess. But you mentioned Bree Conan, and Bree Conan's a funny one, because I had her as a schoolgirl, and from Maggie Island, and had her in a Queensland schoolgirls team. And I said to her dad one day, I said, she's a centre, she's a half-back. She's going to play half-back. She thinks she's a midfielder. She's going to play half-back. And, now she's captain of the Lions, one of the best defensive players in the league, All-Australian this year, All-Australian vice-captain. And, she would come up I had another player from Townsville. They didn't have a really good league. She was finishing grade 11 and grade 12. Another player would drive up with her, play a game of footy up here and go home. And so I had her for 2 seasons up here. And good kid, just wanted to play footy, but so teachable. Awesome story.
And that, again, you had a hand in that. That's got to make you proud. And it's not only did you pay it forward, but you paid it forward to someone who else is going to pay it forward. So that's exponential. That's exponential right there. Look, it's funny you should say that, because I spoke to Laurie Lawrence, who, as you well know, is known as a bit of a super coach, and he's actually a bit of a prickly chap, and it's not just because he's in his 80s now, like he's still a young man. But he said words to the effect of, and I hope I get this right, because I know he actually does tune into Northern Vibe every now and then since I've interviewed him. He leaves the odd but he said words to the effect of, when I asked him about the coaching thing, he said, look, what I was really coaching people to do, Matt, was to be teachable and to believe in themselves. So to get in that mind space. And then he said words to the effect of, and again, I am paraphrasing, so I hope I get this correct, that it's not that you didn't need a high degree of physical skill and great hand-eye coordination and all these kind of things. It's like, yes, if you don't have that at a when I say a low level, at a high level, but like at a high base level, you're not going to achieve. But the most important thing was getting people into the headspace of teachability, which involved so much. It involved getting them to believe themselves and getting them motivated. He was motivating them to become motivated, I suppose, would be a way of articulating. Is it true? Can you comment on that?
Yeah, absolutely. I've got a bunch of kids that I'm coaching now, and you come to training, and you see these kids with some talent, some level of talent, but they're not positive. They don't, they in some of the drills they'll get there and not want to really get in because and they don't trust their talent or their skill, and it's you have to back yourself. And whether it's funny that Laurie, I guess, speaks about that now, because I would have thought that wouldn't have been too much of an issue back when he was doing some of his major coaching. I think social media and I think our connectivity with things has made some of our kids question whether they're good enough at times, and to have that belief. And it's a big part of coaching now, for sure.
I think that's so true, because like I had a conversation, it was off screen with someone else who's in this kind of like sporting-y, coaching-y kind of thing. And this person said words to the effect of, so there's these people out there who are world achievers who are ridiculously good at stuff, and they're out there trying to encourage people, and they think they are, and other people are saying, hey, get out there and encourage people, but they're actually discouraging them, because what happens is people look at that degree of talent and go, oh, man, I'm never going to be that good. They it psychs them out. So they think themselves like, goes to show how old I am, like a soccer player like Pele or Maradona or someone like that. Like, you kind of like, rather than inspiring you think, dude, if I'm going to, it doesn't matter how long or how hard I train, I will never get to that level because of that person's God-given talent.
Yeah.
So I think you're right. And because now we're living in this global village where you don't start off as the best. And I've read literature on this, incidentally, that people from small towns do better than people from big towns. And the reason is because like if you start off in a small pond, it's like, okay, I'm a big fish in a small pond, great. But then, then you move to the next pond, it's a little bit bigger. It's like, you know what, I'm still a pretty big fish. And so on and so on and so on and so on. Whereas social media makes the pool so big so early that you get psyched out.
Yeah, absolutely. And we all know that some of our best Olympians and our most talented sports people have generally come from, well, certainly back in the day, come from rural and remote areas within Australia. And I think it's a little bit of that. You've got the adversity that you have to overcome, and that brings in that resilience piece and all of that. But when I'm coaching, it's funny because when I'm coaching kids, now, sorry about the cockatoos in the background. When I'm coaching kids, most kids, I don't go out there and talk about myself a lot, and it'll only be at certain points that I sort of bring up when I think that they might need a little bit of inspiration, or I've got a story to tell about some adversity that I've overcome or whatever. And I think that that's a little bit more powerful because it's in small spurts, and it's kind of good to be able to just do that. And I reckon it's a little bit more powerful with some of these kids.
Well, the other thing is, Joe, is it's relatable. It's like, well, she can, I can. And again, it's not like Pele in Brazil or it's like, no, it's like Joe who works at the Department of Education. Yes. And she's from Cairns,
Come from Mossman.
Moss Vegas. But let's talk about that. So you've put the finger on an important issue up here in North Queensland. We've just discussed, there are actually some advantages being in a small place and a small fish in a small pond. But there are some disadvantages. So you can talk about the specific geographical disadvantages, and then can you talk about the specific barriers that you overcame? And Joe, don't hold back here, okay? Like, people actually want to know. You have an insight and have an understanding. So being overly modest will not assist this interview.
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess nowadays, I think with the use of technology, some of our sports geographically, I think, unfortunately, you have to move from our town, unfortunately. But I think we're seeing a little bit of a resurgence in people coming and investing in, I guess, major regional towns with facilities and programs, and certainly helps with, like basketball, for instance, having the Taipans here in Cairns. So pathways, you can't be what you can't see, and kids in Cairns playing basketball can see a direct pathway to the Taipans, for instance, if they're good enough. little bit like the Northern Pride, and I guess having the Cowboys down the road and that. But geographically, it's difficult, and with that comes the financial burden, depending on the sport that you play, and that's certainly one of the biggest challenges that we face in not only the coaching side of things that I do, but in my job, on the financial side of being able to offer programs for kids. But for me, growing up as a kid, I grew up in Mossman, and I was lucky to have parents that supported us, or myself and my brother, in whatever we wanted to do. And I played basketball as a kid before playing soccer, and I think it was grade 10 I started playing for the local club, and found out I was half okay being a goalkeeper. And I think I played 2 seasons with the club, and then the women's team folded, and I to be better, I had to come to Cairns. So 3 times a week, travel the range. And in some respects, though, it was really good because I got, I had my learners, and it was great to be able to get your night driving on and learn how to drive with not too many cars around. And so there was always an upside to that. I was really lucky that I had supportive parents that, again, paid for me to access Australian schoolgirls, or the school program, and pay those fees and allow me to go away, get selected, pay for those trips. Because it wasn't until I moved to Brizzy and went to uni, and made some of these top underage Australian teams, and then get a scholarship to the AIS, that stuff started becoming free. And but again, I was probably in the right space, right spot at the right time with a lot of my opportunities in that they were starting to do talent ID programs, looking towards Sydney 2000. I know for me, being in the soccer, the World Cup qualifiers were in PNG one year. I think it was 95. It might have been 95 or end 94. And the Matildas were having a camp in Cairns, and here's this 6 foot tall raw goalkeeper. What better opportunity? Let's let her have a crack in the camp. And I think I'd made maybe one Australian team, underage team, at that stage. And so, again, kind of in the right spot at the right time. Would I have had that opportunity being in Brisbane? Maybe not. But the fact that there was a camp here allowed me that. So, that were some of the challenges. And back when I was finishing grade 12, for high performing athletes, there was the whole, do senior over 3 years, 11 and 12 over 3 years. And that was a big thing. I was like, no, I want to do my get that over and done with, get it done. So I stayed home and did that, and supportive teachers, and so it certainly takes a village when you come from a regional area. It definitely takes a village to get you, to where you've got to have that desire. And I, always knew that it was wanted to just have a crack, and I guess just make everyone proud, small town proud. And but it took a village to have that happen. And from my teachers to my parents to my brother, it was to some of my coaches as well. One coach, George Merrin, who's no longer with us, but he followed my career all the way through. And yeah, you remember those people.
You're a twin, aren't you?
I am.
Yeah. So I'm having your brother in your. Well, is he amazingly good at sports too, or is it? What did you get all that?
Oh, he's all right. He's he's pretty good with riding bikes and motorbikes and all of that sort of stuff. Yeah, he was all right. I didn't start playing soccer until I was in grade 10, so I was at about 15.
Yeah.
And because he played soccer, and because we were twins, we used to fight a lot. So I played basketball, he played soccer, and eventually the opportunity came up for a girls team, and managed to jump on board. But he goes all right, but doesn't have my talent.
You make sure you send this to him. He sees this, it's like, yeah, who the girl? Yeah, I bet you guys were like kicking each other in the womb.
Yeah, probably.
The sport probably started off as boxing, like way back.
Yeah, definitely. But no, my dad, I don't know, like I just always loved like throwing a ball around, and we'd go away every Christmas to Mackay, and we'd always have a tennis ball generally in the car, and you'd stop and you'd just get out, and Dad and I would just throw the tennis ball and try and throw it as hard as you could. And so my catching, my eye-hand coordination was definitely, I think, bred out of that. Yeah,
that's Don Bradman hitting stuff with a stick. Brad Bevan, I had the pleasure of interviewing Brad Bevan too. Now there's another dead set, proper good fun.
Mirror-winning man.
Yeah, Mirror-winning. So it's got to come through the nose. So, he's a proper farm boy, and mate, he used to jog next to his dad's. He used to jog next to his dad's harvester, because harvesters move at 3 kilometers an hour.
Yep.
Which is the perfect speed apparently for triathlons, and that's fast.
Yeah, right.
That's dead set fast. So people go 3 kph. Like I've never been a full-on runner or anything, but I went through the police academy, and you had to do the 2.4 kilometer run in under a certain time. I used to do it. The fastest I kind of did it was 8 minutes 20 or 40 or
that's all right.
Yeah, that's not bad actually.
Yeah.
But that's not 6 minutes. kph is 6 minutes, yeah?
Yep.
Like the academy record is something like 7 minutes 10, which is, again, it's round about the consistent 3 kph speed, because I did the math when I kind of looked it up, because after I spoke to Brad, and it's like, yeah, it's keeping up 3 kph. And let me tell you, that is no... if you consistently run 3 kph, mate, you're world class. Right?
I remember getting a junior sports, like I think it might have been an NQ, the NQ Sports Award, Junior Sports Person of the Year Award. I forget when that was. That was grade 11 or 12, and he won the senior one, and it was always quite funny because I met him a couple of times and he was pretty short.
Yeah, he's and he's skinny as a kangaroo dog too, obviously being a triathlete.
Yeah.
But top bloke.
Yeah.
You can find a better bloke in a month of Sundays, like true God heaven.
Yeah.
He's just a top bloke. But look, talk me through your soccer career. Like once we've gone through the background and all that, and that's uber cool. But the Matildas.
Yeah. Yeah.
Tell me about it. And tell me about the goals that you saved that ensured that the country won. All right.
You've done some good.
I've done my research, Butland. I've done my research.
I did actually. Well, I found a DVD actually this afternoon, but I don't know how good it is. So and certainly haven't watched anything for a long time. But I played a lot of the junior stuff, and then moved to Brizzy, and Queensland Academy of Sport scholarship, and leading into 2000, the Olympic Committee Australian Olympic Committee got a lot of funding, and the Women's Association, because it was separate to the Socceroos side of things back in those days. There was the Women Association, and then there was the male side of things. Got a heap of funding, Sydney 2000 leading in, and I got a gig in Canberra, to live in Canberra at the AAS for a couple of years. And I guess from there, working with the top goalkeepers at that stage, and I hadn't made my Matildas debut at that stage, and just sort of worked hard, and that was July 1998, and then in January 1999 I made my debut against Italy in Sydney at Marconi Stadium, and I think it was one of the first televised female matches on SBS.
It was. That's correct.
Yeah, so
Checked it.
Yep, lasted 26 minutes. 26 minutes, tore my AC joint, grade 2 tear, out for 6 weeks. Great debut. But my mum and dad were there to watch, so pretty thankful for that.
Just got to give a quick shout out to all the people commenting. Dave, fantastic to see you back, mate, honestly. And with everything you've been going through recently, mate, it's so good to see you here. Thanks for all the comments from John Simons, from Janelle, and from Rachel. Fantastic to see you guys on there commenting as well. Please don't hesitate to leave any questions or queries because Joe will be on here checking it all. But now back to the interview. I just wanted to say thank you very much. It's so great to see you guys.
Yeah, it was probably one of my first real injuries, and so it was. I look back at it now and you go, well, could you have pushed through? Probably not, but you learn a lot about yourself. Well, I certainly did, around your pain thresholds and what you're able to I guess manage and take before you know that you have to stop. But that's another story. And recovered from that, got on a trip to Portugal for the Algarve Cup, where I think we played I forget who the first team was. Then we played Portugal and Sweden. I know that much because they're the two games that I played. But it was a championship that you had to have a result at the end of every game. And so if it was a draw and it went through extra time, it went to penalties, and to see, you had to have a clear-cut winner. And so my second game for Australia was against Portugal, and we'd had a penalty shootout in the first game, and our keeper at the time sort of didn't have good luck with that. And so in this game against Portugal, and coach says, all right, Joe, just have a crack, just pick, you got a 50-50 chance. We hadn't done we'd done a bit of shot taking and penalty stopping, and just go and have a crack. And so I was like, all righty, and managed to save two, and we win the game. And bang, yep, bit of I got goosebumps actually. Bit of a hero for that. And I don't think I played the next game. And then we played Sweden in maybe the 3-4 playoff game or something like that. And I think we were 1-1, I reckon. 1-1, I think it was 1-1. And again, went into a penalty shootout. Saved one. Good height. And diving, they weren't easy. And I think one of our players missed one. And so it was, even, and then eventually saved another one, and again a bit of a hero. So so my second and third game for Australia were they were pretty memorable, and I just you had to have that air of. It's probably when I first realised that you kind of had to have a bit of air of it wasn't cockiness, but you had to show that confidence and display it, and it's a game of, I guess, psyching people out in some respect, and who's gonna win, and it was pretty cool. Like,
So is it like the TV where you're doing them? Like, was it? I mean, is that kind of what happened?
Well,
you
and you don't. Well, you see it a little bit now. Like you walk out to walk out around the spot and come off your line a little bit, and if they're ready, well, you're not, and a bit of you sort of play around with them a little bit, and like. I don't know how I'd go now with the rule that you have to have at least 1 foot on the line, but because you're always sort of taught to, get forward, that get a couple of steps in if you could, and just narrow your angles a little bit, and not by much, but and just have a go. It was. I loved it. That pressure. It's back against the wall.
you liked it.
Yeah.
It's worse. Like, seriously.
Well, if you did well and you stopped one or you psyched someone out, then hey, how awesome, how great are you? If you didn't, oh well, it is what it is. It's difficult, and it's good pressure.
So you were talking about the pain tolerance thing and said, well, that's another conversation. So let's have that.
Yeah, I guess lessons that you learn when you're an athlete, and understanding your body. I think kids, or certainly as a kid, I was lucky. I never really had too many injuries, and wasn't until I got older and really started getting into the gym and that I started to get a few injuries, and now not now. A little while ago, I realised exactly what sort of pain threshold you could sort of get through, and what was. And it's probably educating yourself as well, because you've had a few injuries, and what's really an injury, what's not, what can you work through, what can't you, and probably not so much in my sort of soccer space, in my football space, but in my AFL space. I had tore some ligaments in my foot, and tore some bone off, and that, and we had was it a final? Yeah, had a final, a week, 2 weeks later, and you just, they say you're not going to do any more damage. Oh, well, let's go and have a go. It's an hour and a half of footy, and you'll get through it, and you can deal with it later. And as I've gotten older, I've probably become a little bit more careless with that sort of stuff, and because the injuries probably come a little bit more frequently. But I returned to play with my old club, North Cairns, in 2020, COVID year, shortened season, really short. In our prelim final to get into the granny, I last 5-10 minutes, I rolled my ankle pretty bad. It was pretty black, and it was through tape, and it was pretty nasty. We made the grand final, and there was nothing that was going to stop me from playing that grand final. I was in a moon boot until Wednesday. I'm lucky. I do have a couple of really good, physio friends and stuff. So managed to get some rehab and no pain-killing injections, just your normal Panadol and ibuprofen, and strapped it to the hill and said, okay, well, let's go. You can't do any more damage. Let's just go have a crack. And luckily it wasn't a kicking foot, but yeah, wasn't great for probably the next 2 or 3 months later. But sometimes it's amazing what you can get through if you need to, I guess.
Yeah, so again, respectfully putting a bit of a lie to the, well, it can't get any worse comment that you made at the beginning of that, because
yeah, I did suffer. I did suffer a little bit, but
quite clearly, Joe, quite clearly.
It was the 200th game, so there was no way that I was missing that.
Yeah, and yeah, I suppose so too. He gets to the stage where the old mind's writing checks that the body can't cash anymore. Yeah, we've all been there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, real quick, when I had one in the police where it was like, this young guy goes, come on, let's go. I was like, my mind was writing checks, and I had a strong guy with me because my body wasn't cashing the checks that my mind was writing when I was a 30-year-old fast fit. So
yeah,
quite ends so well. But yeah, we've all had them.
Yeah.
Hey, so talk us through your AFL. So you're a world-class soccer player, and so you go, well, this whole soccer thing, what happened?
Yeah, well, I guess after the 2000 Olympics, and back then there wasn't money for you to stick around, and I guess really support yourself with with your soccer career. So I went back to Brizzy after that, living in Canberra for a couple of years, and finished my teaching degree, and managed to get a job up here. And always loved being in far north Queensland. I think you come up here for a lifestyle choice, and coming back to be close to family and that. So yeah, started teaching out at a little school on the south side, and junior development officers come along, and one of them said, hey, I'm starting up a new club. You want to come along, have a go? Like, yeah, why not? Now, being a goalkeeper, I hated running, so playing the sport of AFL was probably not a real good choice. But when you got a purpose of chasing something, and and tackling and all of that, it sort of takes your mind off how much you're actually running. So yeah, being a goalkeeper, could catch, could kick, and just loved it. Really, yeah, just fell in love with the game, and I guess the people that you meet along the way as well. So made my first rep team in 2005. We played down in Victoria, and we come up against the big Victorian team, and I remember jostling with someone, with Debbie Lee, actually, who's now an AFL life member, and I've managed to knock her off and take the ball and go, and you could hear the sort of the players were like, oh, someone's just knocked Debbie Lee on a backside, and made the All-Australian team that year, and just sort of went from there, and Queensland captain the next year. And in 2006, from the All-Australian team, they picked a team to go to Ireland, and that was mixed with the All-Australian Gaelic football team.
Yep.
So yeah, goalkeeper.
International rules. I love that. I love that sport. But the Aussies always get towed up. The Irish always have the advantage with that bloody round ball.
Wow. Yeah. See,
it's for the surname Maloney, those bloody patties.
Well, I guess in the female space, we weren't allowed to tackle. So the Irish had it all over us. And that was the year Favola got sent home from drinking too much Foster's in the pub and getting into a fight and everything. But again, that was a fantastic experience because again, the support from the community up here, AFL Cairns got in and provided funding and assistance, sponsorship for that trip. And on that trip was like Daisy Pearce. She was on that trip. Now obviously retired and well known for her AFL feats. And it pretty amazing. And I don't know, no one knows me for my soccer, very little, probably apart from you. Know me for my soccer feats, because I guess what I've managed to do in my AFL space is probably, I guess surpassed a lot. But I still have my baggy green cap and that for my soccer. And you can't sort of forget your roots, I guess. But yeah.
Well, look, I think I think a lot of that is timing. I really genuinely think, because I was watching the soccer back then. Like I'm a soccer tragic. And I watched that game and I was like, yes. Well, the highlights, because as you said, I only played the highlights.
Yeah.
And it was like really, really cool. Just kind of watching it. So that's actually what I associate you with. But going back to that first rep game that you played, was that for Queensland?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So you're playing for Queensland and go down there and play in the Victorians. That's Geebung Polo Club kind of material, really, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
You get up?
Hey?
Did the Queenslanders get up, or did the Vic?
No, absolutely not. I think we won one game or two games in that national championships and but we had a few players that got selected in the All Australian team that year, and that was, I think, almost a first for the state. And from there, you look back, and it wasn't the first nationals to be held, but you look back at some of the talent that was in there and some of the names that are now still involved in women's footy. And I guess, people say to me, you would have loved playing in the AFLW. I said, yeah, but at the end of the day, you've got to have people that paved the way and are those pioneers. And if it's not your time, it's not your time. And but to be able to play some part in I guess other
blazing that trail.
Yeah. And
totally.
That's I've still played for Australia in with soccer and named All Australian in AFL and played international rules for Australia. There's a lot of people that haven't had those opportunities.
And that's it. I mean, really, so that's, technically speaking, that's 3 sports that you've got to the top of. Like that's no small achievement. I'm sorry to get all fanboy, but it's true. It's kind of, no, it's true, Jane, mate. It's like 3 sports that you've kind of, okay, I mean, there is a similarity, because they're all ball kicking sports, but AFL is not the same as international rules. And but like you were kind of like dismissive with I got selected for the Queensland team, as everybody does. Would you mind talking us through, like, how did that happen?
Well, back in the day, it's not even that long ago, really. Well, maybe 20 years ago. Because that 12
back in the day.
Back in the day. Yeah. We had a Cairns Women's League, and we selected a rep team. I think we went down to Brizzy and played against I think it was just one Brizzy team, might have been 2, and half the squad come from Cairns, the Queensland team, half the squad come from Cairns, half come from Brizzy. We met up wherever the Nationals were, and away we went, really. And over the years, it got better. But that happened for a couple of years. And 2006, I was named captain of that team and held that, and I was Queensland captain until 2011, and so that was Nationals over in Perth, and that was my last All Australian selection over there. And never really thought of myself as a leader, and then you sort of look back, because now you're looking at who your leaders are when you're selecting teams and that, and you're looking for attributes. And I obviously had the skill ability and I guess the game knowledge, but I'd like to think that my ability to actually bring people together and just inspire them by actions, and that was what probably got me to being named captain, for one, and certainly I think that when I was named All Australian captain in 2007, going on the trip to Ireland in 2006 and having, I guess, gaining the respect of all these players, the likes of the Daisy Pearces, and there was Mo Hope on that trip, and Shannon McFerrin, who was a Carlton assistant coach, and like all of these people. Yeah, you've just come from Cairns. What do you know about footy? You're a Queenslander. But after that Ireland trip in particular, it was the respect that us Queenslanders sort of got. I think that it was massive, and really proud moment to be a part of, really. And from that point on, I think people saw the value in putting money towards grassroots sort of junior female footy, and that's where sort of programs started to arise, and then I liked coaching the game too. So yeah.
Well, that leads me directly into that. Before we talk about your stellar coaching career, what's it like having a medal named after you, and how did that come about?
Yeah, well, it's, I don't know. Well, there you go. I'll go again. No, it's a great recognition. I actually I've had a couple of medals named in my honour. And the first one actually was the Queensland Representative Player of the Year medal, and that was just before the, I guess, semi-professional Brisbane or AFL Queensland Quaffle Women's League started in Brisbane probably 4 or 5 years ago, and it recognised the best Queensland representative player. And I was actually coaching. I was an assistant coach for the Queensland Open team, and we're down in Tassie playing against Tassie, and the AFL Queensland rep said, this is what we want to do, and we hope that you'll allow us to do it. And to be sort of thought of, I guess, first with that, because I'm a Queenslander through and through. I could, one of my favourite colours is maroon. It's a shade of red, and I love it. And there is nothing better than playing for your state. Well, there is playing for Australia, but I'm a Queenslander. There's nothing better, and to have that first and foremost named in my honour was just it was awesome. But then to be recognised from AFL Cairns for
Just a quick pause. I should have said she's just ducked off, but Joe is on. So if you've got any questions, don't hesitate to put them on there for her. We'll go back. She's actually just left. She's had to go to touch football, but she is monitoring and she'll be back on later.
I guess one winning, I don't know how many, four or five league best and fairest, and you know, however many games I've played, but just my what I've given back to the game here in Cairns, and even across the state, and to have them recognise me with the league's best and fairest, you know, medal is, it's something that, you know, it's the Craven medal for the men, and the Joe Butland medal for the women, and to be able to you know, go to the Night of Nights for AFL Cairns, which is arguably one of the best regional competitions in Australia. It's great.
And do you do the presenting the medals?
Yep. I haven't missed one yet. So that's pretty cool, because I still get nervous. You sit there at because I don't know who's won, and so you sit there and it's pretty cool. Like
Wow.
Yeah, and who's going to win it this year?
Right. They don't even give you the inside tip. I mean,
no.
medals name, you know.
Wow.
Maybe you could tell me.
Exactly. But I did in that 2020 season, because I had the medal at that stage. In that 2020 season, I did poll a couple of votes, which was quite funny. I might have even polled enough votes to be the top North Cairns person in that vote count. But it was pretty funny.
Look, I've got to talk about the Queensland thing too. It's like, I mean, obviously nationals at another level, but I'm one with you. But I am a big state person, dude. I am such a Queensland redneck, you know, and I'm like, yeah, dude. I don't like being pushed around by Victorians, and like love the Victorians because I've got quite a lot of Victorian listeners. Love you guys. But you know, to the state, or you know, the kind of the condescension you get from the Victorians, it's just like, dude, it's like there's not much we can kick your asses in. Like not sport that we can't, you know, economically we outperform you. Everything like even your criminals, we had to send the police down to pick up, you know, Australia's greatest criminal, Ned Kelly at Victoria. Well, guess who pinched him and shot him? That'd be Queensland coppers. Actually, with Indigenous trackers from Laura. Thank you.
Right.
Yeah, mate. Yeah. Wow. It's Laura trackers Laura and Cohen around that area.
Yep.
You know, all the Quinkin and Lama mob. They kind of like went down and was like, and he was fright. Kelly was proper fright with them. He's like, I can't actually use the language he used to describe them, because it's like it was a backhanded compliment though. He was genuinely terrified of him. It was Queensland coppers that shot him. So
yeah. Just
saying.
Wow. It's funny though, because that I guess that hatred for other states is I coach the Queensland schoolgirls team. I coached them last year, and we went to Albury, and our first game was against Victoria, and we've gone out and we've actually beaten them by, I don't know, 4 or 5 goals, and no one had sort of really done that for a while, and we had every state, I guess, with us at that point in time, because
anyone but Victoria.
Exactly. Until they realised how good Queensland was, and we ended up going through and winning the national championship for the first time last year, and but you instill that sort of back against the wall Queensland mentality. You just got to go and ground out a win sometimes, and I don't know. It's good to be able to teach that to the kids, I think.
Yeah, it's got to. It's like, hey, look, we've actually got the talent, but we are a bunch of Davids. We are against Goliaths.
Yeah.
And we are the underdogs, and it's going to be tough. Like, it's going to be tough. Like, these guys are good. not going to be a walkover. And if we beat them, the glory, the sweet glory. I mean, it's like the first cricket matches against, when Australia beat England, and because I love the mother country, but we love beating them too, and at their own game. The whole body line and going way back thing. And again, with cricket, the first actually Australian cricketers that were sent over there was an all indigenous team, and they won. They kicked up. It's like, yeah. All right. Well, so look, if we can kind of wrap it up really quickly with with your coaching career, could you kind of tell us who you've coached and some of the highlights of that?
Yeah, well, I guess we named a couple early on, being Selena Goodman, Alicia King,
and the teams as well.
Oh, the teams, yeah. So I've done everything from school footy, Peninsula, which so school pathways, Queensland youth girls programs. One of my favourites, like I think I mentioned before, was the Indigenous, the Queensland Indigenous and multicultural teams that I've coached, and I did that for a couple of years, and mostly in a mentoring capacity. But again, with the likes of Ellie Anderson, the current AFLW best and fairest, I helped mentor coach Sabrina Frederick Traub when she was playing for the Lions, and she was up here, coached Queensland under-18 teams with Taylor Harris and Emily Bates and Bree Conan, and now I coach for North Cairns. I was a player coach for, I don't know, I think we won 10 premierships out of 12 attempts. And so I think they were in blocks of 5, so 5 premierships. They were some really good times, and had some really good supporters, to help out with that. But now I mostly do sort of rep programs, and I'm involved in the Gold Coast Suns Academy with the under-17 program, and that's taking our best under-17 talent and from here and providing them with the skills and the fundamentals to hopefully make the transition down to the Gold Coast after grade 12 and onto an AFLW list, I guess. And so that's, you don't have to live in, you still got to have people in regional areas and good people in regional areas. And I guess that's why I still like to be involved in that stuff, because if we want kids to succeed, we've got to have good people in our programs regionally. And I love it. And
Now, I know sport has changed your life, but we see a lot today, and especially, not just with youth who are a little bit off the rails, but just generally to get people who are falling short of their capacity generally. People always say, sport is one of the pathways. Look, is that a bit of a cliche, or is that true? And if so, why?
It's definitely true. We see, I think, well, you mentioned it earlier in terms of the concreter. You don't necessarily need to be able to read and write. You just have to get the skills to be able to lay the concrete and get it flat and whatever else. But it's the same with sport. Kids don't have to be good at reading and writing, but if they've got the ability to go and get into a team sport in particular, you've got the social skills that come with that. You're also managing disappointment and how to build resilience around that, around losing or things not being picked, injuries, etc. yeah, it's just a different. It's another way to engage kids in particular, but also adults that might not be able to succeed in other areas in life or in school. And we've, especially in schools, and you'd know it with even your work with the police. So you have to find ways to, one, get kids there, and two, get them to stay. And sport is, especially up here, sport to me is the perfect driver for that.
Absolutely. All right, so final question. Joe Butland's advice for people out there, like, what do you want to tell the good listeners of Northern Vibe?
Put me on the spot, Matt.
That's the way I roll, mate. That's the way I roll.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I guess whatever you decide to do, I'm a good country person. I think you just, if you want to go and do something, if you want to try something out, just go and have a crack, because you won't know unless you have a go. And that's in anything that you do. But again, I do, it's not hard to be a good person. And, we, well, it is for some people. But if you can try to find a way to be a good person to other people, things will come. Like, you'll find that good things will come. And and I think you have to have a little bit of that belief, especially if you're young. You can't just be cynical. I think you can be a little bit more cynical when you're older. But I think we've got to find a little bit more good, in things that we do. And if you can find that, then at least you'll be at peace, and you'll know that you've had a crack at things. Yeah.
Better to give it a go and not be perfect than to let it go.
How fair dinkum is she? Like, you just wouldn't get anyone more authentic, would you? And again, this incredibly talented woman that walked among us. I got to apologise because I tried hard to get some footage of her playing AFL, but I just couldn't get that. I hope those awesome saves that she did at the beginning. If you're just tuning in now, make sure you go back and watch her doing the saves, winning the Matildas match against Sweden for Australia. But I'm sorry, I just couldn't get my hot little hands on that. Next week's interviews, I've got an interview already in the can, but I'm editing it. I'll see whether or not I'll play it, because I've got a couple of other potential ones lined up. One of the ones I'm looking at, and I've got to say I'm super excited about this, is Trevor Black, or should I say stipendiary magistrate Trevor Black, now retired, who was one of Kansas' most senior magistrates. Very, very good man, a tough but fair administrator of justice. And he had a fantastic chat. There's a real touch of St. Francis of Assisi about him, and you'll understand what I mean by that when you watch the interview. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please like, please share, and comment away.